Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome for tonight's meeting. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Last meeting of the year. It's kind of wild to think about that. So we won't have a meeting next week. You'll see a slide about, or next month. You'll see a slide about that shortly. But this is kind of fun. And I realized just like 30 seconds ago, I survived a year. So anyway, yeah. Yeah. What you don't know is really hang up my hat about 3 months in, but anyway, I stuck it out. It worked out okay, so I'm enjoying it now. And you're stuck with me again next year, so sorry about that. But anyway, as we get going here tonight, you'll see several slides that you recognize. We have a lot of new announcements tonight as well, and some actually really fun things tonight as well. Also, in terms of some giveaways we have later on. Anyway, welcome for those in the room here that I can see, and to those out on Zoom that I can't see right at the moment. We thank you for being here with us tonight. As I always say, we hope you enjoy yourselves. We hope you learn something interesting tonight. We have 3 different speakers. We hope you make a new friend. I actually tried to meet a few new people here tonight myself, and I hope you reconnect with some old friends as well. So thank you for being here at one and all. At this point in time, and I'm going to do it myself, put your cell phones on stun if you could. And I'm going to do the same myself. And so thank you for that. And let's move on. So first of all, do we have any visitors with us tonight? Kind of first-time visitors? Anybody here that's brand new? Oh, we have one over there. And we're going to give you a microphone. We got a few over there. Well, you don't count. You're the speaker. So anyway, we'll introduce you later. So anyway.
Who we got this thing?
Should I just introduce myself?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Urban. I came to one of the viewing parties last month, but this is my first general meeting.
Okay, well, welcome. Glad to have you here. Anybody else here new that would like to introduce yourself? Okay, let's go on. We'll continue on here. Tonight's agenda. So we have our standard general announcements. It'll be 5 or 6 slides that if you're here every month, you see those same slides, 5 or 6 slides every month. So we'll go through those, but there are new people occasionally, and some people need a reminder as well. We're also going to talk a little bit more about that ASU Planetarium Pizza Party that's coming up in January. I got a lot of people signed up for that, so I have some more details for you. I actually went out to ASU last week and spent the afternoon out scoping it out, talking to some people, figuring out the whole thing. So we have more details on that coming up soon. I'm also going to make a little bit of an announcement about a Fountain Hills Dark Sky Discovery Center. If you haven't heard of that yet, we're gonna talk about that a little bit and tell you some things about it. We have some elections tonight. It is the last meeting of the year, and we do have 4 people that are sort of term limited and can't continue into next year. So we're going to introduce 4 new people here tonight. And if anybody else wants to step up, we'll give you that opportunity. But if not, we'll probably elect 4 new people to positions here tonight. And then we're going to have a fun for the last few months. We also have a surprise for the raffle. So we're actually going to have 4 drawings tonight. And so we have a little bit of a surprise coming up on that one. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to this. We have member presentations as well. So our Tom Mozdzen up here is going to talk about a grant that he's pursuing through ASU, through the National Science Foundation. And then Tom Polakis, right over there, is going to be talking to us as well. As you can see the title up there also. Then we'll do our short break, and then we'll have our main speaker tonight, Dr. Aurora Amaral over there, and she's going to be talking to us a little bit later on for this evening. All right, so let's continue on here. Our general announcements. So for those that are here every month, you can go ahead and you'll recognize most of these next 5 or 6 slides. So if you need to join or renew memberships at any given time, you can do so 3 different ways. You can do so via online and through PayPal. You can do so through basically email and printing out things, or you can see Brooks on the back table back there, and he can set you up as well. And so there's different ways to renew your memberships. This will be actually a little bit more important starting probably in January, because of course January we're in a new year, so people need to renew memberships. Memberships are important because your membership dues actually amount to about 1/3 of our club budget every year. So that's about 1/3, 35% or so of our income is our dues, and it pays for things like insurance, and all the other things we have to do to have a club. So anyway, be sure to renew those memberships. They really help us do what we do here. If you want to know what it means to be a member, there is a link on that page that you can bring up this little PDF, and it gives you this little new member guide. You can read through that as well. If you'd like to know what's happening here at EVAC, 4 different ways. So just to remind you, number one, you can always subscribe to our email alias. So we have an email alias called EVAC-announce. We send out probably, 6 to 10 emails a month. We don't sell your email addresses anywhere, so you don't get spam from other places. That's just for our club, that email alias. And it's a good way to stay connected. Matter of fact, there's some things coming up next week that you probably would want to know about early on. So if you're not on that alias, I would suggest you go home tonight, get onto our website, maybe join it, because there's going to be an announcement on Monday that will be perhaps interesting to you. So we'll see that on Monday. All right, so there's one way. Another way is you can always go out to the events and meetings page on our website. There is a calendar out there, and all the events, all the things we're doing as a club are listed on that calendar. And so you can click on anything on there, and it'll say where it is and what time it is, and all that sort of stuff. Also, we have a newsletter that we send out every month. And so there are details in the newsletter about what's going on, what we're doing. There's other things in the newsletter as well, but that's another way you can get information. And then lastly, we have a Facebook page as well. So you can join our Facebook page. There's a little over 1,000 people on it now. And that's announcements. People can post pictures, astrophotography pictures, whatever out there. It's kind of fun. I've been on it for a good year and a half or so now. I really enjoy the Facebook page. So different ways to stay involved. If you need equipment, we have a couple options here as well. So you can rent or buy equipment through the club. So we do have a rental pool of different telescopes. That includes everything from Dobsonians to fully automated SCTs. We have a C-Star out there, one of those new electronic telescopes that you can rent. And so we have all that available. So you can rent something, try it out. If you like it, buy it later. Try before you buy kind of thing. So that helps. We also have equipment for sale. We constantly have people donating equipment to the club. And so I say James here. James goes through that and kind of refurbs whatever he can, tests it out, whatever. And then we usually sell it at almost, about half price? Yeah, about half price compared to new. So anyway, at most it's half price. So it's a good way to find equipment, but without spending maybe a lot of cash. If you need to learn more, also on our webpage, we have that virtual beginners lab. There's 33 of those little blue boxes on this page, and you click on any one of them, and it brings up some text that tells you a little bit more about whatever the topic is listed there. We also have classes occasionally. In fact, James here is actually doing a class right now. It started a couple of weeks ago. How many do you have it this time? 20-some people in this class. It's a beginner visual photography class, and it has a classroom element, and then it has a hands-on element as well. And so he's just starting that, and so we'll probably have another class starting up, in another some number of months. So we kind of wait for we get enough demand. So that's available as well. If you'd like to be involved, a couple different ways to be involved here. You can always volunteer to go work at our observatory over here, about a 5-minute walk over here into the park. And you can see the details there about where it is, when it is, the email to say, hey, I'd like to volunteer for that. It's a great way to get to know people. I would say that the majority of the people I know in this club, I know because of doing the telescope over there. Because in here, you're listening to a guy or a girl speak, whatever. It's just a busy night. But over there, you have some time to socialize, get to know people and talk a little bit. So it's a nice way, actually, not only to give back to the community, learn a little bit more about telescopes in the sky, but also make some social connections. And, they say loneliness is rampant in the United States these days. And so if you're lonely, come on out. Get involved. We'll try to be your friends. And there's another way to get involved as well, and that's to get involved in sort of our private star parties, where you take a telescope out or your binoculars out or whatever, and we go out to HOAs, schools, things like that, and you can kind of get involved in that way as well. And that's another way that I know so many people from getting involved at that as well. In fact, I have a meeting Tuesday morning with my own HOA. Here in Gilbert, where I'm going to try to set up a star party for my own HOA in February. So it's just kind of a fun thing to do. All right, so what else we have here? Special announcements. Okay, we've got a bunch of these. Thanks to all who attended the All AZ Star Party. So anyway, as you can see, we have beautiful clear skies, not a cloud in sight. And look at all the setups and telescopes and tents. It was a great time. We did have a lot of clouds. We did have to cancel. I'm sorry for that. Personally, I'm sorry for that because I wanted to be there, but for everybody else as well. In addition to the clouds, that's bad enough, but they had a lot of wind out there that weekend as well. It was 13 to 15 mile an hour steady wind with gusts up to 27. So we didn't want to be there. I would never got my tent set up in that kind of wind, or would have not stayed in place anyway. So anyway, we'll try again next year. We're looking at a date sort of like the week before Halloween next year. We'll update the website in January with the new date for the next All AZ party and all that. The ASU Planetarium Pizza Parlor party. I was actually able to go out to ASU last week, spend the afternoon out there meeting the people at the facility and all that. I was able to get some details. So here's some of the details. We will be meeting out there on Saturday, January 25th at 11:45. So you want to eat a late breakfast because you're not going to eat again until about 2 o'clock. And we're going to get out there and we're going to meet at that building you see there. And we'll get the first little bit is just social time. They're going to make sure there's students available to us, astronomy students available to us to kind of proctor and take us through and talk about whatever's in the facility. It's 2 floors. They have some pretty cool stuff out there. They have like a full-size mock-up of a Mars rover. They've got a couple of satellites, full-size scales, mock-ups of the satellites hanging from the ceiling, huge meteorite collection, a lot of stuff out there to go through in that building. So we'll spend about an hour or so kind of going through the building, socializing, talking, having a good time. And then about 1 o'clock, we'll go in and we'll see the 3D planetarium show. The students will walk us through that. It takes about an hour, 50 minutes roughly or so. So that will be fun. And then at the end of that, we're going to go at 2 o'clock then, and we'll have our pizza, salad, bottled water, and dessert. And it'll be outside where we eat. So if it's a little cool that day, wear a fleece or some sort of jacket to stay warm. And if it is outside, I do have sort of dry and wet weather options for eating. If it's a nice day, they have kind of a nice garden area. We're going to set up in and eat out there in this little nice shady garden area. If it's raining, there's a covered area. We're going to go over there and we'll eat there instead if it's raining. Parking is nearby. Right next to the facility, there is an open air parking that's like $8 for the lot. And then there is also a parking structure right next to the facility. That's like $16 to park, a little bit more expensive. I will tell you though, yes. Okay, he said 8th Avenue and Rural has a lot of spots and it's free if you don't mind walking a few blocks. If you don't mind walking about 10 minutes, you could light rail up. But it's about a 10-minute walk south to get to the actual facility. I know because I walked it. And you're not dawdling. If you're dawdling, it's 15 minutes, but if you're walking, it's 10. So anyway, that's available to you as well. If you would really like to go, since it is a free event for our members, kind of a thank you to the members and all that. And but the parking is an issue. Someone has provided a little bit of money to pay for parking for someone that maybe can't afford the parking, but really, really wants to go. So if that's a parking price is an issue, let me know, approach me, and I'll try to get that covered for you so that you still can go, even though maybe you can't afford the $8 or $16. Times are tough right now for you. So that is available if you need it. Let's see what else is on that list there. Oh, we are going to have a raffle out there as well. It's a free raffle. You'll get a ticket when you arrive, and we're going to raffle off. There's some books. We have Burnham's whole set of the Celestial books. We got some other books as well. And we actually have 2 Star Tracker mounts from Skywatcher. So we're going to actually raffle off a couple of Skywatcher Star Tracker mounts as well. So it should be fun. As you can see there, we have like 96 people that sent the email back to me that want to go. So apparently there's a lot of desire for a social event. So we're going to have a social event. And so that should be fun. And I will send out more details, more instructions about parking and whatnot in January. We'll also we'll be meeting here before that event, a few days before that event. So I'll give you more details in the January meeting as well. So anyway, where to park, how to get to the parking, that sort of stuff. Anyway, that I think is it for the ASU Planetarium Pizza Parlor, or party, I should say. I want to keep saying parlor. All right. If you haven't heard about this, I know a guy up in Fountain Hills. His name's Ted Blank. Some of you may know Ted as well. He's pretty involved in the dark sky community and the dark sky stuff up there. Anyway, they are actually building a new facility up there, the International Dark Sky Discovery Center. It's actually being built right now. It's under construction. So we just want to let you know about this. If you'd like to know more about it, the website's right there. If you'd like to be on their mailing list, there's also a connection up there to get on their mailing list. So anyway, and every year they have a dark sky festival up there during the kind of the winter months, and it's a lot of fun. I've taken a telescope up a couple of times and joined them. It's a good time. So anyway, just be aware that that's coming out to Fountain Hills. All right, 2025 club elections. So first of all, I'd like to thank the people that are sort of term limiting out of their positions tonight. So that would be James Yoder up here, our secretary. James isn't going very far though, because he's still our properties manager. So he's still going to be very much involved. He's not doing the secretary position anymore. Tom Mozdzen is up here. He's actually, as you can see, he helps run our Zooms and all sorts of other things as well. But officially, he's kind of going off the board, rolling off the board. Let's see, we have Dawn Wrigley is also leaving the board after term limiting. Dawn isn't here because Dawn, so that we all can be here in the room tonight, Dawn always takes over Greco for us on Friday nights during meetings. So that's why you never see Dawn. He's always over there so we can be here. So that's good for Dawn. And although if you go to a lot of the public events, public star parties and all that, Dawn's usually at most of those as well. So I'm sure a lot of you know Dawn. Let's see, who else we have? Oh, Woody, you're all here now, okay. I saw your email, so you're gonna be a little late. Anyway, Woody is kind of term limiting out of the vice president position. Thanks to Woody as well. The biggest thing that the vice president does for us as a club, he does several things, but the biggest thing is they source the speakers for us every month. So the fact that we have speakers here every month is the vice president is taking care of that. So Woody's been doing that for us for 2 years now. So I'd like to thank all these people. So we have 4 positions to fill. Fortuitously, we have 4 people volunteer. We actually had 8, but 4 sort of withdrew after they found out more about it. But 4 have remained. So anyway, but before I introduce these people, is anybody else interested? And because I don't want to exclude it, if you want to put your hand up for a position and we'll have a vote off here. But anyway, okay, we'll go on then. So let's go ahead and introduce these 4 people. They are, I believe, all in the room tonight. I think I've said hi to all of them. Let's introduce them. So first of all, we have for the vice president position, we have Amanda Dolly Duvall. You can see here, she's moved here from San Diego in 2019. Dolly, Amanda's right there in the front row, so she can wave at the crowd. So anyway, and she's not above, giving bribes out to earn the position. So if you need some money, let her know. Anyway, and that's not her real hair. So it's not her real hair. Anyway, as you said, that was Alaska, right? The picture was Alaska. Okay, all right. So anyway, she works as a project manager currently at an InfoSec company in an InfoSec position, information security. She's joined EVAC this year along with her husband, Ed. Ed is sitting right next to her. She has lots of hobbies. The astronomy is important. The other stuff we don't care about. Anyhow, and then a special mention, even though she's not elected, she's already sourcing speakers for next year. So she's actually got speakers for January, February, and March already lined up. So anyway, that's called Go Getter. So anyway, I like that. So anyway, I like that. So anyway, so that's one of the persons we'll be voting on tonight. So let's just go ahead and do that while we're talking about her. Everybody in favor of having Amanda as vice president, please raise your hand. And that looks like a majority, so I'm not even going to ask for a nay. So I'm sorry, you won. Okay, so anyway, yeah. Okay. Now, where's the April speaker? Okay, okay. So anyway, all right. So that's Amanda. So welcome, Amanda, and we'll get you plugged into all the emails and everything else you need to be plugged into. For our secretary position, replacing James, we have Jeff Foreman. I met Jeff about a year or so ago at actually the All AZ or the Messier Star Party, one of those two. And in fact, Jeff and Jake, I'll call if you know Jake and myself, we usually kind of set up all together out there, and that way the three of us can hang out at night. Anyway, Jeff moved here from Texas 3 years ago. He's been doing this a long time. His dad got him hooked up on astronomy in high school. He's currently a lab analyst in Fountain Hills as well. And he's been a member here, as you can see, for 2 years. He also is a volunteer out at Greco. Occasionally, him and I will stumble into each other on a volunteer night out there. Owns several telescopes. I know, I've seen them. And he's fun to hang out with at star parties. I really enjoy Jeff's time. So anyway, once again, Jeff, you want to stand up so everybody at least can see you? All right, very good, okay. So anyway, everybody in favor of having Jeff take over as secretary, please raise your hand. Looks like a majority. Okay, sorry, you want as well. Okay, so anyway. All right, well, welcome, Jeff, and we'll get you hooked up as well. Our next person here is going to be Andrew. Did I see Andrew here tonight? Oh, there we go, okay. I was gonna say we were talking earlier, but it's like I couldn't find, well, you took the hat off, so that threw me off. So anyway, so Andrew's here. He lives here in Gilbert. He's 44 years, as you can see, in chemistry, research, and business analysis. 50 years of visual astronomy and astrophotography. So he's been around the block a few times. Been a member, first time around here with 2000 around for a while. A couple of books, as you can see there, a couple of contributions to some of the astronomy mags and stuff as well. So he's going to be up for a board member. You want to stand so everybody can see you there for just a second, Andrew? So, all right, so here's Andrew. Okay. All right, yeah, we're qualified. All right, so all those in favor of having Andrew as a board member? Okay, it looks like a majority, so we won't even do the nay part of that. Okay, you're on, Andrew, welcome. And last but certainly not least, a guy most of us don't know at all, that would be Gordon Roster. I think they just built the club around Gordon. He's been here for so long. I don't think, was there a library here when you started? No, I'm kidding. Oh, you land. Okay. So anyway, as you can see, Gordon's been around the block a few times as well. In fact, he's had my job before. He's had James' job before. He's been the event coordinator. He's done a little bit of everything. And he's volunteered to go back into a board position for the next year to help us out. So anyway, you all know Gordon. And I love the vest, by the way. So anyway. And I notice you guys are matching. How cute. So anyway, all right. All those in favor of having Gordon join as a board member? Okay, you're in, Gordon. So anyway, now for your first job, Gordon. No. All right. So anyway, okay, well, good. We have elections done and we are all set for 2025. Nobody gets hit by a bus. That's the rules, okay? You're all in. Nobody gets hit by a bus. Not till 2026, then you can get hit by a bus. All right. December schedule change, very important here, everybody. We have no club meeting in December. So this is our last club meeting of this year. We're not meeting next month because they do the Riparian After Dark Christmas light walk out here in the park. And they do it through about almost a week and a half, 2 weeks of December this year. And it's just a zoo here. They have anywhere from 500, 600, 700 people a night coming through here. The parking lot's jammed. It's ugly. So anyway, we won't be meeting here in December, so don't show up. If you do, walk through the lights. It'll be pretty. And also, that's going to affect our second Friday night star party out in front of Greco. So if you typically bring a telescope out and set up next to Greco on a second Friday of the month, don't come. It'll be all Christmas lights out there this next month. So anyway, just be aware of that. And I will send out email in December, kind of reminding people the week before, hey, don't come. We're not here. All right. We're going to have our final badge raffle tonight. And we're going to have 2 other raffles as well. But that'll be a surprise in just a moment. So James, you want to pull a number there? And we're doing this double blind, so
082183.
All right, there you go. All right. So you get a nice little gift card out of this deal. You're all set. I'll take that. Okay, let's do the next one here.
082181.
Oh, there we go. Okay. There you go. You're all set. All right. Well, tonight we have two more drawings to do. And it's kind of a surprise. There's going to be two winners. And the thing is, it's really cool what you're winning. It's very cool, actually, what you're winning, but I can't tell you what it is. Because legally, I'm not allowed to say until 11 o'clock on Monday morning. So anyway, so at 11 o'clock on Monday morning, or probably around noon, I would say on Monday, look at the EVAC announce email alias, and I will send out an email, and I'll tell the people who win the next two drawings what you've won, number one. And then I'll also tell the rest of you that on Thursday morning, you need to also check for your email, because I've managed to get pre-release access to some tickets that you might want to have tickets for. And we'll have a 36-hour window where we'll get access to tickets before the general public does for this event. The event is in June, so it's 6 months away. But like I said, I can't say anything until Monday morning. But I wanted to do the raffle tonight because there's no December raffle. And if you're going to kind of purchase maybe some things on your own, well, you won't have to if you already won something. So anyways, we're going to do the raffle here now. So let's pick the next number.
082196.
Are you? All right. All right. Before you go tonight, please give me your name and email address, because I'm going to need that to hook up with you later. Okay. All right. Next one.
Next one. 082176. That's me.
Okay. Let's try it again.
Let me read it again one more time and then we'll go on to the next. 082176.
Okay.
Okay. We've got 082178.
All right. All right. Same with you. Just before you leave tonight, come up and hook up with me. I need your name and your email address before you go there. You guys won some really cool things, by the way. So I hope you enjoy. All right. And then once again, look for email on Monday, midday. And then that's going to have some information about what you might want to be doing on Thursday morning when you get the next email. All right. So nice surprise there. So, all right. Let's see here. Member presentations. Let's go ahead and get to one of those now. The first one up tonight is going to be Tom Mozdzen. And Tom, take it away.
Thanks, Steve. So I was inspired by Tom Polakis, our next member speaker, to go and give a member presentation. He said, we got so many members doing things in astronomy. Somebody can come up and give a 5 or 10 minute presentation, surely. I'm like, okay, so I'll do that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was the low bid. Anyway, so we just finished submitting a National Science Foundation, NSF, grant proposal because we're always broke. We don't have any money. Went to a workshop on intensity interferometry last week. Everybody else was broke, except the guy from U of A in Tucson, Chad. He felt guilty that he actually had funding. It's like, oh, I feel so guilty. Everyone else is broke. Anyway, so it's fun science projects. The chance of success is very low. You should expect to get rejected on your first attempt. Less than 1 out of 10 get funded. We got rejected last week. They loved our write-up, but they said, how are you advancing the field? You know, you need to advance the science a little bit more. And they gave us a write-ups. So we tried to address that. And so we resubmitted. So, you know, you can't win if you don't play. So we submitted it. So here we go. This was on intensity interferometry. Is there anyone in the audience who was here for Rick Scott's and my presentation? Okay, got it. Maybe, I don't know, 15% of the crowd. Anyway, just really quickly, you take two telescopes and you point it at a star and you timestamp the arrival of the photons coming in each telescope. And you measure how, what the time separation of each pair of photons coming in is, and then you characterize them and make a histogram. And if you get a little spike here, that means you have a correlation, and that puts you on this curve. Here we were 3.3 meters telescope separation, and we observed a point like that. Now we know what the curve for Sirius looks like. So if we didn't know it, then we'd move the two scopes apart even further and make another point. And then when you hit zero, you can tell what the angular diameter of your source is. Okay. And the advantage of this thing is you can have the telescopes really far apart, and you just have to timestamp them and keep the clock synchronized between your two telescopes, and you get your data. You don't have to worry about fringes interfering like a traditional interferometer. Okay, why we like this technique, just real quick here. On the left axis is the resolution you can get. You can see it goes down to 100 micro arc seconds or 10 micro arc seconds, and that's how the Event Horizon Telescope can image black holes. And there's a wavelength on the x-axis or frequency. And in the optical, we think we could match that resolution, but only needing to go out 6 miles instead of 6,000 miles like the Event Horizon Telescope is. I often misstate the name of the EHT. I call it the Earth Horizon Telescope because it uses the entire Earth as a separation, but the real name is Event Horizon. And they're thinking of putting one in space. So anyway, so a lot of people are trying to do this once again. There's a workshop last week, and it's quite active. Okay, so 2 more slides. I'm going to be fast here. So what we're doing today is this curve here is the light emission, say from Sirius versus the frequency band. And what we have to do is take a really narrow band so that we get almost monochromatic light to measure our correlation spike. And we throw away all this other light. We just don't use it. And you know, what a waste. This is all really good light. And so the proposal is to put it through a spectrometer and break it up. This simple drawing says four sections here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So now you're using more of that light coming in from the star. And at the workshop, people were proposing to even break it up into 500 sections, and you put single photon detectors in a IC type array to pick up the light off of all those. So that's really challenging. So that's what we proposed, and you know, heaven help us if we get accepted, because there's some hard work ahead. All right, that's all. Thanks.
All right, let's see if I get the name right. I believe Tom is our next speaker. So anyway, so we've done Tom, now we're going to Tom. So Tom.
Okay, doing a member presentation. It has, I think, 8 different subjects in it. So this is the clever title that you get here. Okay, so I'm on Facebook on one of the worldwide sites, and this telescope pops up, and a guy named Eric Santos says, "What do I do with this telescope? I don't know what to do with it." And within 1 second of seeing the picture, I recognize that's my wife, Jennifer's old telescope from 16 years ago. So Eric lived in the Phoenix area as a high school teacher, and he borrowed Jennifer's telescope for 8 years because she's with me and I already have a 10-inch telescope. So she would just use that. Then he took it to Chicago with him, and another 8 years elapsed, and now he's kind of moved on to other things. So we said, hey, we're going to Chicago because we go to Michigan every year. I tried to find one archive photo of the telescope, and this was the best I could do. I would not recommend observing this way. Yeah. So, but there's Jennifer at the telescope, proof and everything. This is in Vico Valley way back in 2005. And now bringing us to a few months ago, here's Eric and Jennifer with the telescope in 2024. Pretty cool. And then we had the minor challenge of how do we get this thing back home, including this tube. And that led to some marital arguments. But, so here's all this stuff back in Phoenix, and I've assembled it and it works and it's collimated, and she'll be doing some public outreach with it and some observing in the near future. So that's good news. That worked out pretty nice. So my next little lecture has to do with the flat Earth. Yeah, here's proof that it's not flat. And then I have further proof. During that Michigan trip, we took a really fun little trip that's 2.5 hours, goes across Lake Michigan from my hometown of Muskegon to Milwaukee. Last year we took it in the other direction with a different grandkid, and I imaged or photographed the Michigan sand dunes, the Michigan horizon receding as you go across the lake. So this is from about 10, 15, and 20 miles. The lake is about 80 miles wide, so you don't see either side when you're in the middle of it, even the buildings in Milwaukee. So now you know, now you really have proof that the Earth is indeed not flat. So on to more stuff about Jennifer. She has an asteroid named after her by our buddy Dave Healy, the late Dave Healy. He used to operate an observatory in Sierra Vista. It was called Junk Bond Observatory, discovered a bunch of asteroids and then named one after her. And so here's her asteroid at the time of the discovery. And Mike Wiles in the audience here is at a much darker site than I am. My dark site is Mill Southern. And his is well away from that. At the time was in Benson, right? Yeah, that's the site in Benson. Now he's at the astronomy complex at Chiricahua. And this is going to be really hard to see, I'm sure, but maybe this is the better way to do it. So I'll follow the line. You won't see the fourth one, but this is a 20th magnitude asteroid. And Mike was able to just barely pick it out. In case you were wondering what's the current location of her asteroid in the solar system and my asteroid, here they both are. So just remarkably, we're actually both kind of approaching opposition in the next couple months or so. You can see we're both pretty eccentric, and so they're the two asteroids as they are now. I'll move on to yet another, I think this is the fourth subject, and this is a sunset green flash over Lake Michigan taken many years ago. So a green flash is real simple. It's just atmospheric dispersion. Green light's refracted higher, shorter wavelengths are refracted more than the longer wavelengths. And the blue just gets suppressed too much by the atmosphere. So you usually don't see blue, although you can, and I'm going to show that. But it's not limited to sunset. You can also get a really nice green flash of Venus. And I've seen 3 of these that I've photographed anyway. And one of them was only from just a month ago, I guess. And I'll show those now. So if this is going to go to the next one. So these are actually green and blue flashes of Venus. That bottom one was really spectacular. That's the one from just when we were imaging the comet. And these are just taken with ordinary telephoto lenses or very small telescopes. So if you see that Venus is going to be setting, it's up in the evening sky these days. So if you're out at a site and it has a distant horizon, it has to be at least a few miles away so that you have some atmosphere between you and it. Kind of fun to point a telescope at it, and just at the last couple seconds that it's setting, it'll typically do this. It'll turn green or blue, and all you're seeing is just the dispersion. That atmosphere is lifting that more than it is the red wavelengths. Next subject. This is called the coronal rain. So I've been imaging the sun on occasion. Well, what always strikes me about this, when you do have this phenomenon of these prominences, is how stable that top part is. And really, you know, it's an appropriate name for it. So this is all entrained in these magnetic fields. And these are all, you can kind of see that they are all loop prominences, these big circular prominences that are going out of our line of sight, or in our line of sight, I guess. And the Earth is not really there, but that's the Earth for scale. So the Earth, easy way to remember what the Earth size is relative to the sun. Don't use volume and say how many Earths you can fit. That's hard to understand. It's just about 100 Earths across the sun. And then also convenient, it's about 10 Earths to go across Jupiter. So those are the easiest ways to remember that. Don Wrigley over in the observatory did a great talk about moon observing. He's probably still the expert in this club on that subject. And we always get lectured that the moon is the best. We see the shadows best at first quarter and last quarter. And Don disagreed with that. And I agree with Don that the best phase of the moon is right now, like a couple days on either side of full, because the perspective you get is so much more familiar. It's like you're looking at Four Peaks or Mount Ord from an airplane. You get this thing where you're looking down on it. And so that's kind of my favorite phase. This is 14 hours past full. I think it's, yeah, back in August, right? And the scale of these are really impressive. You know, this is 7,000 feet above the plane. Another one with Batavius, a crater. This has a rill that they would, you know, they call it a rill on the moon. It's a graben on Earth. So this is kind of the same mechanism as Death Valley is made. Go on to the next subject. We had a non-event partial eclipse. This is the penumbra is the outer ring, and the umbra is the outer ring. This simulation with Sky Safari software, and maximum eclipse was something like 2% or 3, but it's a clear night and it's comfortable out, and yeah, let's go out and watch it. And so I just put this together that showed just barely got a bite out of the upper left corner, but just to show the sequence. And so I just went out and I set the timer remote on the camera to do this and didn't have to think about it. It's pretty easy to put stuff like this together. Okay, the one plot of the presentation right here. This is about, what is it, 30 years? Yeah, one orbit is 30 years for Saturn, roughly. So this is about one orbit of Saturn. This is when the rings are edge on, and it's just given the inclination of the rings. So we like looking at Saturn when the rings are wide open. What's happening now is that we're going through the ring plane crossing, which is going to happen during the next year. These little squiggles, each one of those is due to our perspective. You can see that the period of each of those is 1 year. So each time as we orbit, even if you had a constant, you know, ring inclination, we would see it slightly differently. So you see this like 2 or 3 degree overlay of these squiggles that are going on there. Currently, the position is that red dot that you see. And the point of doing this is to show something I've been working on, which is just an animation of the rings closing. And so that's what this is. So these are 5 images that start back in 2020 during peak COVID and then take us up to the present. And you can see the second image I had 10 out of 10 seeing, the one in 2021, that one. And all the rest of these are taken with a 15-inch telescope to X Barlow from my driveway in Tempe. Once in a while, the seeing's real good there. Most of the time, it's 3 arc seconds. And this is what you get when you do a video of Saturn. Okay, and we had a comet. I don't know if anybody knows that. We had a comet. Yeah, okay, yeah, good. This was one of the coolest things we've seen, even though it's rough around the edges as a photo, was when it was rising in the morning sky, seeing in the viewfinder of the camera while it's on my little Pronto telescope, seeing this giant tail before the head had risen. And this is over the Superstition Mountains. Another one from later, on September 29th. So that was really nice when we had this comet, and then we knew that in a couple weeks, 10 days or something, it's going to go around into the evening sky and be at least this bright. So that was really nice. But during that time, you know, we had a Northern Lights display. And I found out they have a KP index, and it had gone up to 8 or 9, I think it is. If it gets above 7, you'll usually get the dull red glow on the horizon. And it actually, as we arrived at the site, out by Usery Mountains, we saw this just looking out, and it looked about like this. It had a dull red coloration and some curtain structure, which is pretty cool. So we thought that was going to go on for hours, and that proved not to be the case. So we're really glad we got there when we did. Of course, you have to have the selfie. We have a selfie camera we put together every year. And so there it is with the northern lights blazing in the background. And kind of interesting is what it ended up turning into was they call it a stable auroral arc. So it just sat like this for hours, for a couple hours until we headed home. All the photographs looked about the same with this just featureless red glow. And so we're always seeing from down at this low latitude, the top of the auroral curtain. So we don't typically get the greens or purples or anything that you would get up north. So we just get that stuff that's at the highest levels of the atmosphere. I think I got one more. Oh yeah, we'll come back to the comet now. That is Picacho Peak in the background. Jennifer and I and Mike Wiles went out to a spot that paved road, didn't get bothered for the whole night, had like 1 or 2 cars go by the whole time. And with the view that I wanted to get the comet setting over Picacho Peak, and worked out with limited success, as you'll see. That's a typical equatorial mount with the little scope on it, my little William Optics GT2071, sorry. And that's a tripod with a camera sitting precariously on a tracking platform. So here's the comet. And it really was spectacular because this is with the twilight. As you can see, we're just past nautical twilight, maybe 50 minutes to an hour after sunset. And you can see an anti-tail and of course a 10-degree tail going up away from the sun. Anti-tail is analogous to the zodiacal light, which is just when we're in the plane of the light source and you have all this stuff, the orbital debris of the comet, it's backlit by the sun. So it's the same kind of phenomenon as zodiacal light. And there were various explanations, and some of them were correct. So yeah, this is running great. Okay, yeah. So there's the comet setting. What I did in this case was just have the camera do its timer remote thing and tracked on the comet rather than having a stationary horizon. And so we found a pretty good site with one kind of bright, obnoxious, flashing red light. I don't know if that adds or subtracts to this. So, okay, and yet another selfie. And Mike took that photo. Yet another one, and this was the next night, set up with Glenn Nishimoto, Rick Scott, Tom and Barb Mozdzen at a site that's right on the edge of town looking over the reservation. Again, just spectacular in the twilight. You'll get these comets like this every 5 years, something 10 years. We had not quite as good as Neowise, but a great comet. And this is as good as I did with stacking to show the anti-tail, which was as we moved away from this time where we crossed the orbital plane, other people who are much better comet photographers showed the anti-tail now being skewed, not pointed exactly away from the main tail, not pointed toward the sun. Oop, and a couple more. I had to do that, of course. And this was taken along the Oracle Highway toward Oracle Junction. One last subject, I'd recommend going to this site. It's called Helio Viewer, and you can use all these solar images from all over the place, including orbit from space, and these are all public domain, and make animations of the sun rotating, prominences, flares, what have you. And so what it'll also do is allow you to zoom in on one sunspot and make the field of view that, and it'll attempt to follow that sunspot across the disk of the sun from limb to limb. And so that's what I did with a really spectacular sunspot. And you'll see us right here from July 5th through the 15th. I found this really fascinating to watch how the structure of sunspots change as they rotate across the disk. I'll just let this go maybe twice. And now you're seeing they're becoming foreshortened and going over to the receding limb of the sun. So these are always changing. And maybe the two most interesting things for all the deep sky observers out there in the entire sky are the sun and the moon. After we do all of this, you have the sun doing all these great things, constant change of lightning on the moon. And here's this site where you can easily, once you kind of get the knack of it, you can easily put these kind of things together. And it's pretty cool to see what's happening. So I hope I didn't use up too much time. Thanks for listening.
Hello, hello. All right. All right. Thank you to both the Toms. We're on.
All right, can I have your attention, please? I'd like to introduce Dr. Laura. I don't know that I've met anyone with so many names. So I'm going to go with Dr. Laura, if that's all right. And she's going to tell us about planetary atmospheres and space weather. And some of you might recall when we had Dr. James Jackman speak beginning of last year, I think it was, on flare stars. And if you remember that talk, Laura studies some of those same stars. Some of the same factors are involved in habitability of these planets, and that's what James was talking about with X-ray flares and on red dwarf flare stars. So, Laura, let's welcome Laura.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. I think it's really cool, the group that you have here. That's like my child's dream when I was in the college, like everybody showing up for the group meeting and everybody excited to talk about astronomy. So congratulations for that. It's amazing. So yeah, so today, I don't know if I have, you just click? Okay, cool. There you go. Thanks. So today I'm going to talk a little bit of everything. So long story short, in my research that I do at ASU, I'm a postdoc over there. I work with stellar flares and how they affect the atmospheres of exoplanets. So here I'm going to try to don't be so boring in data and more like in the part, like conceptual part and like the outputs of my work, because it's a lot of like programming. It's just like, sometimes it's just like not pleasant. But yeah, that's all the people that work with me. And basically I put them here because I have a lot of data that I have to show to you that they're collaborating with that. So that's it. So today, basically, I'm gonna talk about star-planet interactions, specifically about how flares interact with planetary atmospheres. And I'm gonna use, the first part, I'm gonna use the sun as a model to understand the same concept in another stars, specific M-dwarf stars, like smaller than the sun. Because, you know, the sun is pretty cool, it's over there. We can have a lot of data. It's very easy to understand the concepts of the sun. I love that. I love GIFs about the sun, so yeah. So the big question is, do stellar flares matter to exoplanets? Like, we have to consider them, like in the research, or just like pretty and that's it? So first of all, what is space weather? So there is a lot of concepts about what is space weather, but long story short, space weather, it is everything that happens between the star and the planet and can affect or like the interaction between both, or everything that happens like around the atmosphere of the star. There's different concepts of that. But here you're gonna work with the idea of it's what type of events or the life of the star that happens over the star, it's influencing in the planets. So first of all, everything starts with magnetic field. So here we have a model for how the magnetic field lines on the sun behave. So here all those lines are the magnetic fields, and just to like have a parameter, like the sun has one rotation for each 25 days, and the solar cycle is about like 11 years. So just to understand like how it is like the dynamic of the sun, that happens similarly with other stars. So when we have the minimal state, that is like the beginning of the GIF, the lines are like a dynamo. So we can have the solar minimum. That is basically this photo here. In 2008 was like on the solar minimum. So you don't have like, the sun is boring, don't have anything, nothing of the cool stuff that Tom just showed to us. And when the sun is full of loops and the magnetic field is very like tense, because like the charged particles carry within the magnetic field lines over time, it starts doing a lot of loops and things get crazy, and you have the nice things. There's like the active regions. There is this lightest areas over the sun close to the equator. So this active regions give a space for the sunspots that Tom just showed us. It's very cool. I love the GIF, by the way. And you can have these loops. Here's these loops because of the magnetic field lines, basically. So over time, those lines that have charged particles here can touch and reconnect. So when you have magnetic reconnection in the surface of a star, or in this case in the sun, you're gonna accelerate particles, and those particles, and when they move, they're gonna emit light. And there is the flare. So here I have just image of active regions in the sun. This was the same week that we have the first auroras in Arizona early in this year. So this is a pretty photo of the Solar Dynamic Observatory, and this is my version. So here's the Earth, tiny here. Here you can, another point here, you can see it. Like you barely can see it, but yeah, I think it was very cool. I took that photo for giving a class, and I think you can do really cool stuff from here with, I just was with my camera. So yeah. So here's the flares in the sun. So here you can have like the flare very slow happening. So we have the true Ribeiro structure that they call. You don't have to remember this name, but long story short, it's like, and there's a structure that forms just before the flare happens in the sun. Here you have another flare, also in about like 13 nanometers, also from the SDO. Here's the model that the flare happens. So basically you have the line here, and you're gonna have magnetic connection here, and you're gonna have particles, like I said to you before, accelerating, and they're gonna emit in different wavelengths. So depending on the region and the velocity, they're gonna emit in like lower or higher wavelengths. The ones that I'm interested about are the lower ones, because they have more energy, like X-rays and ultraviolet, basically. Okay. So just to contextualize, this was the event of the Aurora in October that Tom also just showed to us. So this was the region that gave the origin to the CME that arrived at us, and we have, you know, the Aurora and these beautiful images that we just saw. And to compare that, the solar flare was a flare that was classified as a class X 1.8, that basically says that the energy released in this flare was about 10^31 ergs, okay? To compare, the sun releases in 1 second, total energy of the sun is 10^33. So it's about like 2.5 orders of magnitude of this specific flare. But when you're talking about another stars, those flares are more frequent and more energetic. So when you pass the threshold of 10^32 ergs for one event of flare, we have a super flare. So, and that's gonna release this amount of energy over between seconds or a few minutes, okay? So it's basically like 10^32, sorry, or more is a super flare. So basically, it's the entire luminosity of the star being released in that amount of time for just one event of magnetic reconnection. It's a lot of energy involved in it. So what about M stars? Now we talk about the sun. We understand how that works in the sun and how stellar flares are. So this is the photo of Proxima Centauri. It's our closest star and also is an M star. Okay, so M stars compared to the sun, they're much smaller in mass and radii. They also have a temperature that's lower. So here, for example, we have sun and TRAPPIST-1. TRAPPIST-1, for those who doesn't know TRAPPIST-1, it's very interesting star because besides of being active star, it's also the host for 7 Earth-like planets. So it's like a oasis of rocks. I love big rocks. So it's very interesting because we don't have that in our stellar system, right? We have Venus, we have Mars, and Pluto is now not with us anymore as a planet. And you have the Earth, but like it's only Earth-like planets. So, but the problem of TRAPPIST-1 and another M-DAR stars, it is they're very active. So here's another example to contextualize you about the M-DAR stars. So here we have a G star that is basically a star just like the sun. So what we call habitable zone, that is basically this area around the star. It's the area where the water should be liquid in a surface of a planet like the Earth. Gonna be this size and far away, right? Compared to another case. So we have, and the star lives like the sun, like about 10 billion years. But if you move to stars that are like smaller than the sun, like K-DARFs or M-DARFs, the habitable zone is gonna be closer of the star because the temperature of the star is lower. So we have to be closer to be warmer, right? So, and the thing about those stars, they're very they make up about 70% of the stellar population in our galaxy. So they are everywhere, right? And they live a lot. They live about 100 billion years. It's like, it's older than the age of the universe. So you still don't have a M star that already died or got out of the main sequence. So here's the sun again, just to compare. So this is the sun this week. We have 2 relative big flares, almost a class X here, but in another M here. So this is a threshold just to compare like different energies, where is a super flare. So for having a stellar flare that is a super flare, you have to put a lot of more energy. So the flux arriving here is not that much. This flux is in the X-rays, okay? So super flares in the sun gonna happen once or twice per cycle if you got lucky. And they deliver a lot of energy, as I told you before, for the planets that are orbiting around those stars. But for the case of the M stars, those flares can happen daily. So that's a lot of energy arriving those planets. And if you remember what I just told you about the habitable zones, planets in the habitable zone of those stars also gonna be closer. So not just only those planets gonna receive more energy because the flares are more frequently, but also because they're closer of the star. So it can be a hell to live on those planets, right? So here are like examples of not so fun, like is the sun, right? Because we don't have a spatial resolution for that, but basically it's Proxima Centauri flaring here. And this is another star that has a really complicated name in the 2-mass catalog, but it's also a flaring star. And those energies are even like, they're very super flares, like they are not 10^32, but almost 10^35. And here, 10^33.5, basically. So this flare is basically releasing the energy of the sun that is releasing by second, and also like in just one event of flare. So it's huge, okay? So why M-dwarf stars? Well, I told you about that, at 70% of the Milky Way's total stellar population. We expect that at least half of those stars have a terrestrial planet in the habitable zone. So like TRAPPIST-1 has a lot of, so it's basically at least half of them has one planet, okay? Another thing about those stars that is 27%, sorry, 27 of the 29 planets that we consider potential habitable rocky planets are orbiting M-dwarfs. So we should talk more about that than G-dwarfs like the sun. The problem is, like I told you before, the M-dwarf environment is pretty complicated for keeping things in place like atmosphere. So for billion years, the planets around those stars going to be exposed to high levels of X-rays and ultraviolet. And X-rays and ultraviolet not just make us to have like things like skin cancer, or it's like can kill bacteria and unicellular life. It's also can drive photolysis of different molecules in the atmosphere. That means that the atoms or molecules can receive energy enough to go away from the planets, and you can drive atmospheric escape. So that's what I just say. So basically, it's the X-rays can come in here and can basically break the molecule, and the hydrogens, in case of the water, are lighter than the oxygen, so they can go away. But if the radiation coming in the planet is too high, you can even like make the hydrogen go away like a fluid and carry along within the oxygen. So it's like the perfect recipe to lose the entire atmosphere on those cases. So here now I'm gonna show you some results of my work specifically. So this system is EVAC. Here we are covering like the main star, but that's basically the system. EVAC, it has M-dwarf star as a whole star. It's a star that has like 50% of the mass of the sun, and has at least for now 3 planets. There is 2 sub-Neptune or Neptune sized planets, and there is 1 Earth-like planet that is like the radii and the mass is very close to the Earth. So I took that planet, the EVAC planet that is just like the Earth, and I simulate the planet in different cases. So here I show to you basically it is I put the EVAC in different distance from the star. So I put like 10 times closer, or 10 times farther away, or 4 times farther away. It was like playing around to see what is the sweet spot to, you know, to see where flare is gonna start to make a difference in the atmospheric escape. So here I have the hydrogen envelope mass. That is basically how much hydrogen has in the atmosphere of the planet. And here is the age of the star. So if you see here, basically you're seeing how much hydrogen you're gonna have at the end of the simulation, depend on the age of the star. So basically, red lines are considering flares, and blue lines are not considering flares. So if you took those 2 cases here, that I think it's just easier to understand better, it is, and the same distance, the same planet, if you add flares, that is more energy to the system, you're gonna drive the atmospheric escape of a primordial atmosphere thousands of years earlier. So that's very important, because if you have M-dwarf stars that we know that have a pretty high active level, you basically don't have, they're gonna have planets with atmospheres, at least if they are flaring, right? So yeah, basically they accelerate, and they're gonna be important for Earth-sized planets around old M-dwarfs. Another question that I answered, and was the question that I answered in my PhD, was can planets that orbit M-dwarfs keep the water in the surface? Because one thing is the primordial atmosphere, like hydrogen that is very light. Another thing is water that is in the surface, like liquid water. So here, be with me because I know that this plot is complicated, but long story short, this plot is like a map. So the way they read is, you have the stellar mass over here. They're basically the same results with different things, but focus on the top panel. So you have the stellar mass, and the horizontal part, you have how much water the planet starts. And each panel, it's a planetary mass. So here you have half of the Earth mass, you have 1 Earth mass, 2, 3, and 5. And the colors, it's how much water the flares may escape. So here we have terrestrial oceans. It's basically like 1 terrestrial ocean is like the amount of water that we have on the surface of the Earth right now. And long story short, planets, they are about the same mass of the Earth around them, dark stars, can lose about 1.4 terrestrial oceans because of flaring, just flaring. Okay, so it's a lot of water. Yeah, and this is get worse, even worse for planets. They're like super Earths. They're basically like the Earth, a big rock, but bigger, like 2, 3, 5 times the mass of the Earth. So apparently flares matter, right? So yeah, so the most affected are super Earths, but doesn't mean that the other ones don't get affected. Only means that we have like this, the biggest gap is towards more massive terrestrial planets. Okay, so the other thing that I separate here, it is more like a short review about other works in the literature. It's like more concepts, just like to tell you the history that I'm trying to talk about here, basically like how space weather affects exoplanets. So the first one is on our solar system. This work, what shows to us is how a flare that happens in 2017, I don't know if you remember, but that week in September in 2017 was like the sun was very, very, very active. And we have several CMEs and flare events happen, very energetic ones. So we have the specific flare that was a category X 8.2, was a most like a super flare, but was not there yet, and that heated Mars. So what they calculate here basically was the escape rate of oxygen on Mars, and they saw that the flare could increase the escape rate by 20%. Oh, Mars. I mean, Mars doesn't have too much gravity, it doesn't help itself, but that shows us that one single event can drive a lot, like the escape rate can increase substantially because of that. Okay. So here's another example. This is a simulation. So basically this result, what shows to us is when you have a flare associated with energetic particles. Remember, flares are the radiation and the coronal mass ejections are stellar energetical particles are particles. So when you associate the both together, they can even destroy the ozone layer of a Earth-like planet. And we can recover this layer after 2 years, but that is a lot of time, okay, because of that. It's just one single flare. There's another one what shows like even that the interesting thing of this one is another paper show us that they're gonna deplete the ozone layer, but here what this work shows to us, it is even if you don't have ozone layer, but you have a ocean of water, and life like bacteria or unicellular life get under the water, about, should be feet. Sorry, I was translating that for meters. So 27 feet deep ocean, they can survive. So maybe they don't need another planets that have unicellular life, doesn't need ozone layer to protect from UV radiation like we have here. And this one, I think, I don't know if how you like about exoplanets, but was something that got like really, everybody was talking about that last year. That was the the spectra of characterization of the TRAPPIST-1 planets. So everybody was excited to know what those planets, the 7 planets around TRAPPIST-1, have. Like if they have, I don't know, water, they have CO2, they have nitrogen, but what they have? They are Earth-like planets, and they have nothing. So basically, was we have the GWST basically focus now like to characterize planets, specifically Earth-like planets, and it's a very expensive tool, and basically you cannot see anything right now. So the question it is why? Like it's because those planets are too old. Because TRAPPIST-1 is about 7 billion years, I think so. So maybe it's like they're too old, and the natural process of losing the atmosphere just like happened, and that's it, you know. Or maybe the space weather contribute with that. So we don't know. I'm actually working on it. So to figure out. So basically, yeah, they just saw that is a big rock with nothing around it. None of those the models fits the data. So the data is here and have several models saying like, oh, more O2 or CO2 without oxygen, and no, it's just like bare rock. Okay, so I think the last thing that I have to say today basically is like the space weather, along with planetary formation and planetary system dynamics, is the thing that shapes the planets. So don't think that it's just space weather matters, because I mean, I'm biased, I work with that, but it's like several things working together to shape how we see the stellar, the planetary population that we have observed along those years, especially with Kepler, the Kepler telescope. So here you can have this plot. What shows us is basically a number of planets within less than 100 days of orbital period, and the size of the planet. So basically we have a gap here, and this gap we call the radius gap. So like we have Earth-sized planets, and we have sub-Neptunes, that is like a small Neptune, but you don't have like, you know, super Earths, like there's something missing, and the something missing, we're trying to figure out what it is. So apparently it's a little bit of everything, but this is basically like, it's something that is really curious, because we see a lot of different types of planets, but there's a specific type of planet that is like should be there by following up this distribution, but it's like there's a gap. So in the background, you can see the different planetary systems with the different configurations. So you have bigger planets, and you have small planets, and you have planets that are farther away, and planets that are much closer to the star. So it's like an entire zoo. And how this zoo looks like depend on space weather, planetary formation, and the dynamics of the system. So long story short, space weather is important for planets on different levels. So I think the last thing that I have to show to you, it is my contribution of the photos of the comet. So so here you have that in close to my house, and this is from the ICT4 in the ASU. We're gonna be like the planetary astro party. So basically here, if you can see, because we're looking towards Phoenix, so you have to be very creative. And here you can see here. Oh no, you cannot. Oh, you cannot see my. Okay, so you cannot see the mouse, right? But here you can see where is the comment, right? So yeah. So I think that's everything for today. And let me see if I have another slide. Nope, I don't have that. Oh, that's not mine. Sorry. That's thank you very much.
Did that make your brains hurt? When they stop melting, does anybody have any questions?
So in your opinion, is there any hope that a M-class star could have a habitable planet that is of a certain age?
Yes, but this is a spoiler actually. But from some simulations that I'm running, but I think yes, but they have the problem are the flares. So you have to find an M-dark star that is not too much active, and also a planet that is young enough, because even if it's not active, the star, the quiescent, the baseline of emission of the star is also driving a lot of escape. So I think the perfect recipe is young systems around stars that are not too much active, and maybe planets that is also in the habitable zone or farther, like closing planets, at least Earth-like. Okay, sub-Neptunes, Jupiters, that's another story.
Have you worked with K stars at all as far as their ability to be stable as well as their long life, which was is kind of like consistent with evolved life? Do they have corona mass ejections and a lot of activity that would prevent life from, I mean, are they in between M stars and G stars as far as flares go?
So that's a really good question, because I have a collaborator that is working with that, and we are trying to see the flare rate of those stars, and we are expecting to have like a lower, but than the M-DARFs, but higher than the sun. And nope, they have, at least the ones that she analyzed, is just higher. It is M-DARFs. So if you want to keep seeing how is her research, her name is Tyler Richie Yoel. She's working in the Lowell observatory. And yeah, sounds like we are thinking that they're gonna be like the sweet spot, but sounds like they're just bad as M-DARFs. But they have a habitable zone that's farther away. That's another thing. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that? Habitable zone, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, great talk, by the way. I
you.
was literally going to ask exactly what he just asked you, but I have another question. You talked about like TRAPPIST-1 having a bunch of rocky planets, but you didn't mention anything about gas giants around those stars. Is that a function of the mass of the star, or do the flares sort of blow the non-rocky planets away?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Like, so the thing with the massive planets around smaller stars, it is if the star has a lower metallicity, or is like the system, the system start with a lower mass, you kind of don't have material left over to build the planets. So the likelihood of a smaller star have a bigger planet is lower. So basically you're gonna have it as bigger stars, bigger planets, and smaller stars, smaller planets. You have exceptions though. I don't remember by name, but I know that there is one Jupiter or like around the M-DARF, but I don't remember the name. I have to figure out which one it is, but it's not common at all. So it's not a function of the mass, it's actually a function of the metallicity. But yeah, long story short, you can, yeah.
Other questions?
I'm just like you and talk to you, don't worry.
Do we have a percentage of the stars that would you consider active or high flare stars versus kind of calmer?
So the peak, I don't have this figure here, but the peak is basically even smaller the M-DARF, specifically the M-DARF, higher the flare frequency. And you reach a point that is not a longer star, is actually like a brown dwarf, so you drop that again. But yes, it's basically increases with the
Smaller the size.
yeah, it's inversely proportional, basically.
Anyone else have a question? I have a question for Bob Buckheim here. You've done a lot of work on flare stars, and Laura defined or said the definition of a super flare is 10 to the 32 ergs. Didn't we measure something in the 10 to the 33?
Yeah, the answer is yes. It was either AD Leo or EVAC, well-known flare stars. And we also had that whopper that David Boyd in England saw the rise in the brightness of the star. And somebody here, either in Arizona or Portland, saw it fade away 8 or 9 hours later. Yeah. What was too big for us to measure.
Sorry. 33, you have like severe observations on that, but I like you observe here like with your telescope?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a whopper.
Wow. I want to see that.
I'll
that
dig out
figure.
the data
Yeah,
and send it to you.
that's cool.
One other thing, a lot of these M-dwarf stars that are flaring stars have short rotation periods, a few days. And I don't remember, is there a reason that the smaller star has a faster rotation, or is it just random luck?
It is, sorry. So actually it is. So if you come back for the very beginning of the presentation, if you remember, they were talking about the magnetic field. So basically, if you rotate faster, you're gonna make more loops. If you're gonna make more loops, you're gonna increase the probability of have magnetic reconnection because you're gonna touch more. So yeah, so they rotate faster, so there is more messy, gets messy faster too. But at the same time, it's kind of non-trivial to think also about like age, because with age, they should drop the activity and get like more chill, and they sometimes don't. So we're still trying to figure out what's going on, you know.
How confident are you about the age determinations? I was in that NASA conference about flux calibration, and that was one of the things they were wringing their hands about.
So age determination for normal stars, as known by not M-dwarfs, is kind of easy because you have another like methodologies. But M-dwarfs, it's so complicated. Like I'm asking that because I have to calculate ages for those stars, and I just give up because they have a lot of degeneracy. So you kind of have different like the way that you calibrate the age gives you different ages depending on the calibration. So you cannot like use two methodologies to have a better like uncertainty, like another stars like G stars or more massive. So it's kind of really hard. If you have a companion though, like a binary system that you know the age of another star, it's easier because you can like, oh, if they like got formed together, so they have the same age, because the properties of the M-dwarfs, because they live too long and they're like very chill and like they don't evolve too fast, they don't change with the same rate that, for example, for stars like the sun change. So you cannot like measure the difference because they are like, besides of the flares, they're always the same. So it's terrible. I wish that I could have like, oh, it's just like that. No, it's not. If you know how to do that, please let me know.
No, thank you.
Anyone else? Well, let's thank Dr. Laura for coming out and speaking to us.
Thank you.